Hi everyone, my name is Clément and I'd like to share with you a technique that I use to create repetitive patterns in the Haken Continuum. One thing I had in mind when I got my continuum was to be able to transform continuously repetitive patterns. A little bit like modular synthesists do, but with the benefit of the interface of the continuum. The first thing to do was to define how to create those patterns. The easiest solution would have been to use an external sequencer, but for autonomy and elegance reasons, I didn't like this idea. In this video, I'll show you the technique I use to create repetitive patterns directly into the eigenmatrix. So the basic principle is to sample a repetitive signal at regular intervals. If they are synchronized, the frequency of the signal and the frequency of the sampler, you get a pattern. And then you just have to apply those values to anything you want, any parameter you want, and then you get a real pattern. Applied to a frequency of an oscillator, you get a melodic pattern. And applied to the spectral content of an oscillator, you get a tone pattern. It's nice too. The first repetitive signal that comes in mind is, of course, the sinusoid. But unfortunately, with a sinusoid, if you sample regularly, you won't get anything very interesting. So, as I like to introduce a part of randomness in my work, I had the idea to use noise to create patterns. You can sample just noise, the first row of the eigenmatrix, but by definition, noise is not repetitive, so you get different values, but no repetition. But there's another kind of noise that's really interesting. It's noise from seed. As some of you certainly know, noise from seed creates a chaotic signal. It's similar to noise, but it's based on a number. It starts with a number, and if you put twice the same seed, the same number, into noise from seed, you will get the exact same noise. It's chaotic, but it's identical. And by retriggering noise from seed at regular intervals, you get, with the same seed of course, you get the same signal, chaotic and repetitive, but you get the same one. It's like a loop of noise. And then you just get to sample it and you get a value pattern. So let's see in the eigenmatrix how it works. So let's create our first pattern. The first thing we have to do is to define a shape generator that will retrigger regularly the noise from seed. In the trigger column, I put 1, so it will run forever. And let's say we want a loop that is 2 seconds long. So I put 0.5 in the frequency column. Then I just have to select noise from seed and create two formulas, one for the seed and one for the triggering. You could just put a number, but it's easier to change afterwards. So I put 1 to begin. One thing that is important sorry, is that noise from seed is really chaotic. So whether you leave interpolation on or you put it off will change the result. So I used to put it off. Same thing for triggering. I choose shape generator 1 and pulse signal at 1. And that's good for our noise from seed. Let's now create a shape generator that will sample and hold the noise from seed. Let's say we want 4 values in one period. I then have to put 2 in frequency. And I use the same T formula for the trigger of the second shape generator, because noise from seed and sampling have to be synchronized for it to work. Then I just have to create a formula to sample and hold my noise from seed, so my first row here. I put it in the frequency column of the second oscillator, so I will get a melodic pattern. I choose the second SG and I choose sample and hold of matrix row. Then my formula will sample and hold the noise loop that will come out from the noise from seed. Let's put a range of 0.2. That's the good range to create the pattern I want to create. But you could put any range you want, of course. And let's add an offset of 0.10. And always interpolation off. So here we have a range of 200, which means in this case 200 Hertz, and an offset of 100 Hertz. So we will get frequencies between 100 Hertz, and 300 Hertz. That's because when I found this pattern in particular, I wanted a bass sound. Let's add Y in the spectral content and Z to listen to a pattern. One last thing is a little 0.0004 here. That's because I used to use a formula here instead of numbers, a formula controlled by a barrel of BPM, so it can be synchronized with an external beatbox or so. And when I discover the pattern you will soon hear, I forgot the interpolation on the formula of the BPM, and I had this little 4 that made me find this pattern, so I have to put it, because if not, I won't have the same pattern at all. Well, let's listen to a pattern. So here we are, we have our pattern, and as you can see, we don't need a lot of formulas to create it. So we have a lot of formulas to create other things with it. I used to create a lead voice with, for example, a single oscillator with X, Y, and Z. And so I can play also on it. Of course, you have to put different formulas to put the pattern on a part of the continuum and the lead on another part. You can add in the A formula a derivative linear curve, so with 100 it's fine, and you get like a vibrato. Nice to play with. You can of course multiply your values by a number, for example 2 of course, and you will get the same pattern an octave higher. But you can also multiply by a formula and by those numbers, and then get a fifth, a fourth, or any interval you like. And of course you can do that with another oscillator like this. I put the same formula A, the Y also, and here multiply it. And if you put this pattern on one part of the continuum and this one on another part, you can play with both of them individually. So let's have a look at the possibilities. As there are 4 numbers after comma, you have 10,000 seed possible between 0 and 1. Each one of them will create a different pattern. Of course, the range and the offset you will put on your sampler will also affect the result. And finally, the length of the noise loop and the length and the interval of sampling will also change the result. As you can see, there are really a lot of possibilities, and right now we just made a melodic pattern, but you can apply it also to any parameters. But as you can imagine, as it is completely chaotic, a lot of them are not really interesting, so it's you have to dig into the numbers, into the seed and the range and the periods. I like it. I imagine some of you won't, but I hope some of you will. So that's it. I'm really glad to share it with you. I hope it was clear. Let me know if it wasn't. And let me know also if you have any feedback. I'm really curious to know what you will do with it. So enjoy and see you.